YouTube, how's it going? Frogs Angels is back with some Week 13 NFL recap, back every single week with this recap video. We also have plenty of prediction videos and Friday live streams here at Frogs Angels. Week 13, in my opinion, maybe one of the worst weeks for me in NFL history. Between the poor officiating, picking games wrong once again, it was... it's surprising. It's kind of fun when there's upsets and there's surprises, but overall, I just did not like a lot of these games, mainly how they were officiated. I thought every single – there's been some bad officiating this year, some terrible calls, terrible missed calls, but I think almost every single game you can point out just obvious, just terrible, terrible calls and just an insane amount of penalties. We'll kind of go over in each game, but – it was wild. Two things. I thought my voice would be gone for this video after the early games yesterday. Those got me going, and my team wasn't even playing till the late afternoon games. And another thing, I thought I'd be a little more angry when doing this video, but my Chicago Bulls fired Fred Hoiberg this morning, so that made me a little happy. So should be a pretty good video. Right before we get into it, go ahead and follow our Twitter, Frogs_Angels. Playoffs and Super Bowl predictions updated every Tuesday. So once my updated power rankings video goes up on Tuesday, we will tweet out our updated NFL predictions. But let's just get on to it here. I'll recap every game, but I kind of want to run through just the surprise outcomes real quick, and I'll come back to all these games. But, off the top, Cowboys beat the Saints. Big-time upset, shows defense can win games again. The Falcons were favored, but it's not that surprising. But it is kind of surprising the Falcons really struggled to score even a touchdown on offense. They got a garbage time touchdown. Broncos game kind of went to plan. Lions were actually kind of close with the Rams at times. Again, we'll come back to these games. It's just surprising outcomes. Cardinals beating the Packers, surprising. Bills, Dolphins, terrible officiated game, but outcome was correct. Giants upset the Bears. I don't care who was at quarterback. Buccaneers upset the Panthers. Colts score 0 and lose to the Jags. Next couple went on, lived up to where it was supposed to be. Chiefs, Raiders, almost come back for the Raiders, a little surprising. The Vikings only scoring 10 points on the Patriots defense, surprising. And the Steelers getting upset by the Chargers. Not super surprising, but a lot of crazy outcomes this week, but we'll talk more about each game. We kind of recap the Saints-Cowboys. In the Friday live stream, we usually recap those Thursday night games in every Friday live stream. Ravens-Falcons, again, surprised that the Falcons were not able to really score an offense touchdown to the very end. Ravens defense once again shows why they're maybe the best in football. They're definitely up there. It's debatable who is actually the best. Ravens are up there. They definitely are first in points per game allowed, and that's just considered the number one defense in football at all times. So they're up there. Falcons, just what a disappointing season. Early on, they had the injuries. But at this point, everybody's had injuries. Pretty much everybody has had pretty costly injuries. So the Falcons got to figure something out. I think changes need to be made. They have the quarterback, they have the receivers. Even with Freeman out, I think they have a solid running back in Coleman. I don't know. I don't really know the answer right now. I know that I think they need a new offensive coordinator, but things got to change, bottom line, because there's a couple teams like this, like the Falcons, where they have the talent and it's just they're not executing. Offensive team not scoring in an offensive league these days, so unacceptable. This game wasn't really bad in terms of the officiating, I thought. Let's take a look at the penalty yards here. Well, actually quite a bit of yards. 88 yards and penalties for the Ravens and 82 for the Falcons. And that's not bad for the rest of this week. That's pretty bad on most weeks, but it was not bad this week. It's almost like the NFL had a meeting and we needed just before this week, and we gotta up the penalties. That's almost what it was like, because it was kind of getting better, and they were just flag happy, and they were missing obvious calls too, calling stuff in every game that didn't need to be called, and they were just constantly throwing the flags, and then they were missing obvious crucial calls everywhere. And there's probably penalties on every single play in the NFL. It's just like holding, probably a penalty, probably a holding on every play. But they just pick and choose to me. So good game for the Ravens, great defensive game, and again, this really wasn't a bad one compared to the rest in terms of officiating. Broncos Bengals really wasn't a terrible one either. kind of what we expected here. Broncos are the better team and were the better team in this game. Driscoll didn't play terrible. I would like to see him, spread the ball out more, throw the ball downfield more, especially, not just him, the coaching staff. You got to do something to win this game. You got to do something extra to win this game. Injury's been a problem for the Bengals, obviously. Chris Harris goes down for the Broncos. That's very unfortunate. Phillip Lindsay, once again, just magnificent, really. He needs to get the ball more, up for Rookie of the Year with Saquon, and he's an undrafted running back. He's got the vision, he's got the burst, he's got the long speed, everything, literally everything. He's undersized, and that's really the only thing, and it doesn't show that he's undersized. He's a beast. Take a look at the penalty yards. This game, like I said, not bad in terms of huge penalties, but again, 60 yards for Denver, 100 yards for Cincinnati. So looking at the penalties thrown and the penalty yardage, it was pretty bad, but there was way worse games we're going to talk about. But yeah, mainly Broncos were the better team in this game, and they should have been. Great game from Lindsay. Should get the ball more. Courtland Sutton's catch for a touchdown, that's why he was my number one receiver going into this last draft. That's why I was so high on Courtland Sutton. One-on-one, you throw the ball up, he's going to win most of the time. And he did there, and it was great. It was absolutely great. But again, the Bengals want to win some games. I don't know if they want to win some games, but if they want to win some games, if maybe that coaching staff wants to keep their job, once again, it's got to be the last year. But they got to spread it out. Have Driscoll throw downfield. He has weapons. Even with AJ Green out, I think they have pretty solid weapons. Rams 30, Lions 16. It looks like the Rams beat them pretty good, but it was actually a lot closer than the final score, I thought. Very strange because, Goff struggled with the pressure. He struggled with the pressure, but the strange thing is, one of the best offensive lines in football, and how does the one team that consistently gets to Goff is the Lions? How did that happen? I don't know how it happened. Not Goff's best game. Gurley, it was close, so that's why they fed Gurley as many times as they did. Probably could have gave him the ball more, but it was close, so they had no choice. They kind of been saving him, didn't really need to do it. Robert Woods, I thought, was great. Goff was just off on many passes. I think his receivers even saved him on some, and the consistent pressure really threw him off. But consistent pressure throws off the other quarterback even more, Matt Stafford. And we've been seeing that every single week. He gets happy feet, he gets choppy, and it causes him to make a mistake or take a sack. He has time on some of these, and they're not really coverage sacks either. There was one point where, the ball, he's in shotgun, the ball snapped, he's chopping his feet like crazy, and, thinking he's getting rushed. He's not yet. And then at one point, he actually turned his head and looked behind him. Like good quarterbacks don't do. They just don't do that. Another thing I didn't like from the Lions was early, it was just all blunt. I like Riddick. He's not anything special, but I like Riddick. And they're throwing slip screens to Blunt. And then they put Riddick into pass block, and that's not going good. I mean, I don't know what they're thinking, really. I don't know. I can't tell you. They're backwards. A lot of teams are backwards. It's bad. But penalty yards in this game, maybe these first few aren't the bad ones, but they were still probably bad. 105 yards in penalties for the Rams, and they still managed to score 30 points. Very impressive. 54 yards for the Lions. Again, why am I saying these penalty yards? Because every single game has a lot. Even the ones that weren't that bad have a lot. Every single ref was throwing the flag too much and missing crucial calls at the same time. Something happened going into this week. I don't know what the whole group of officials or the league decided, but they did something. I'm telling you, something was decided before this week, and it can't be more obvious on some of these games. Cardinals 20, Packers 17. Like I said, a shocker. I thought the Packers would win this game pretty easily. I thought they had a chance to. I didn't think they were going to actually do it, but a pretty decent chance to win out. And they lose this game. McCarthy gets fired. I still think McCarthy can coach. As long as he's been around, I guess the league has changed since then. He's won a Super Bowl. I don't know if there's as much talent, and I know there's not as much talent in Green Bay as there was when he was a winner. So that could be another reason. But one thing that stood out was, I believe, Aaron Jones had one more snap than Jamal Williams. Unacceptable. So he had to get fired here. I expect him to get another job, as he should, sometime soon, at the latest before next year starts, next season. Good game for the Cardinals. Defense was great against still, I think, a pretty solid Packers offense. They still got one of the better players in football, Aaron Rodgers. They got Aaron Jones. Devontae Adams had a great game. That catch at the sideline, that was big time. That was a heck of a catch. But the Cardinals played a good game. Larry Fitzgerald was great once again. That big catch. I don't even know how he catches. Not too many guys can catch that ball. Edmonds I thought was real good. He was better than David Johnson in this game. Kind of odd. I thought, well, yeah, David Johnson 20 for 69. Edmonds had 5 carries for 53 yards, 2 touchdowns. They took a touchdown away from him in the next play. They just give it to him again. Earlier in the year we were saying, why are they giving the ball to Edmonds so much in crucial plays when they have David Johnson? Well, look at this. Maybe this is why. I thought Rosen was pretty darn good you look at his stats, 11 for 26, 149 yards, no touchdowns, no picks, though. That doesn't look super good, but I thought he controlled the game. He made the big throws when he needed to. Kirk was good. Fitzgerald was good. The defense played very well. They played very, very well. They're one of the worst rush defenses in football, and the Packers weren't really able to run the ball that well. Aaron Jones, 11 for 36. Jamal Williams, 7 for 13. He was in the game a little too much compared to Aaron Jones. Surprising that the Packers lost. Penalty yards, let's check it out. What do we got? 49. Yeah, this was probably the least penalized game. 49 yards for the Cardinals. Green Bay, 43. Now, this is what it should be. This is what it should be every game, and even coaches, when they watch the film, will try to cut down on these penalties. They each had 7 penalties in the 40s for yards. That's where it should be, and the coaches will even want to cut down even from there, and this was the least penalized game of the week, I believe. Bills and Dolphins, there was one point early in this game where it was play after play, flag after flag. They were just throwing it just to throw it, too. And then the missed calls in this game. Josh Allen was getting hit. I'm not really one to complain for a roughing the passer call or anything. But, if you're going to throw the flags on things that, nobody even really can see. There was ones early in the game where I don't even know what they threw the flag on. That was the bad part. It was just play after play in the red zone. And then Josh Allen's getting hit super late, or he's getting face mask and horse collar at the same time as he's getting taken down. It was ridiculous. I think it was a winnable game for the Bills. Still, they couldn't do it there. I thought Tannehill played pretty well. Not anything spectacular except for I think it was his first touchdown throw. A laser down the middle of the field was a very accurate throw. I was very impressed with that. It was to Devontae Parker too, who was questionable going into this game. So surprising to see him get that first grab. Yeah, it was a winnable game for the Bills. Josh Allen, once again, was just great running the ball. We knew he could move for a big guy, but just really surprised to see this. His moves, too. Very impressive. Zay Jones had a good game. It's good to see him, play well. But penalty yards in this game, 120 for the Bills, 89 for the Dolphins. That is a lot. 13 penalties for the Bills. Insane. And we saw Jerry Hughes after the game in the tunnel yelling at the refs. You don't see that a lot after the games, and it happened in multiple occasions in just this day in different games too, not like the same game. So, and the league may have to look into that. I think the officiating is very sketchy, and I think players reacting the way they do kind of shows that. They know it. Everyone knows it. I'm thinking how bad the officiating is going into this, or while these games are going on, and then after the fact, you see these players doing this, and it's all over Twitter this morning. It's all you see is clip after clip on missed calls. Why did they call this? Statistics on how it was just in terms of yardage, one of the most penalized weeks in football, and so everybody knows it. It's very obvious. This was one of the bad ones. I think it's hard to say I know people use the word the term the fix is in, but why would the fix be in for the Dolphins here? But it's strange. It really makes you think. Bears and Giants, this is a wacky game is what I want to call it. Right off the bat, Chase Daniel throws a pick six to Ogletree. Very good play by Ogletree, very athletic play. The throw could have been better, could have been higher. But you can't put too much blame on Daniel there. I think it was just a very good interception by Ogletree. And the next interception by Daniel could have been a little higher, may have been a touchdown, but a little higher. but not all on the quarterback. A ridiculous athletic interception by Ogletree again, so he had a great game. I think he's maybe the better player on the Giants defense. Olivier Vernon looks lost, completely lost, looks less athletic than when he was a D lineman, when he was a D end. Landon Collins, I always thought he was overrated. He looks lost at times. Looks like he lost some burst, some speed. Maybe they're just giving up, but I think there's people wonder why the Giants aren't. When they won this game, we're talking about they lost this game, but they wonder why they're not good because they got these big names, but those big names are overhyped, and Ogletree isn't talked about enough, and I think he's one of the. B.J. Hill's really coming along too. The rookie from NC State had a good game, but a lot of trick plays in this game. It was a weird game. Akeem Hicks got a touchdown for the Bears. I thought this game was over. The fumble by Gabriel, I thought this game was for sure over. Onside kick comes, and Odell's job to get that. He gets scared and just tries to slap it, whiffs. That's on him. He kind of puts some blame on other people. That's for sure on him. And the Bears, then to let them score, and I have a problem with that pass interference call, and I believe it was Janoris Jenkins. The ball was not even on my TV screen. You say that to exaggerate, but it wasn't actually. In this instant, it was actually higher than my TV screen. So, and the guy who's going up to make a play on the ball, he happens to hit his helmet on the way up. Ball is just nowhere near catchable, and that puts the Bears in the opportunity to go to overtime. They do it. I'm surprised they didn't go for two. I'm like, they're going to go for two. They're going to get it. What's their chances for going for two? What's their percentage on 2-point conversions? I think very high. So I was very surprised. They didn't go for two. I think they would have got it and won the game here if they did it. Like I said, that PI call, I think 100 out of 100 times that should not be PI. But then the last play of the game, I think, is about a 50-50. I think the Bears' fourth down I'm talking about, I think that could have been called. But, I'm not going to complain that it wasn't, because like I said, I thought it was 50-50. So they just pick and choose when to call, make the calls. One thing that actually stood out to me was the Bears receiver unit, who I think has been very, very good this year. But they were not good in this game. I think the rain was a factor. The field conditions was a factor. The receiver unit of the Bears, even though Allen Robinson had a ridiculous catch, Anthony Miller, had his plays. But drop balls, not only the obvious. The obvious would be drop balls, the fumble by Gabriel. But what people aren't talking about is the times that Chase Daniel was just sitting back there with great protection, just sitting in the pocket, and then even rolling out the end, trying to find someone open, and no one was open. That is unlike the Bears. With Trubisky back there in the past, in past games, he would find guys wide open. And I don't think that has anything to do with the quarterback there. Yeah, if Trubisky was in this game, it could have been a different game. Trubisky could have thrown those interceptions as well, or he could maybe not have even thrown those balls in those areas. It's hard to say, but obviously you'd rather have your starting quarterback. But in the cases where the receivers weren't open, that's not the quarterback's fault. 2 interceptions for Daniel, you can't have it, but they're not 100% on the quarterback. I thought the receiver unit was off. I'm still a believer in this receiver unit. It's been great, one of the best all year. I guess the legitimate excuse would be the rain, the field, but you could put some blame on them, that unit, for this game, and giving up 30 points is not ideal for the Bears defense. The Bears defense could have played better, but the turnovers did result in points. The defense constantly being on the field result in some points. So the only thing I really had about the defense concern was, it shows how good Barkley is, but the plays that Barkley would get after contact was unlike the Bears. They cost them a field goal at the end of the half, and we're looking back, the Giants win by a field goal. The end of the half, that play was kind of like a broken run, and it was unlike. I was surprised to see it, unlike the Bears to give that up. And, the defense didn't cost them the game, but I think you get my point. What were the penalty yards in this game? I almost forgot that. Probably a good amount in this game. I did not agree with a lot of the calls down the stretch, or the missed calls down the stretch. That pass interference on the Giants calls really, stood with me there. 58 yards in penalties for the Bears and 107 yards for the Giants. 107 in the way the Giants season's been going, they still won this game. Yeah, I think the Bears had their opportunities, especially with that, to win this game. They couldn't do it. You expect them to do it even with the backup quarterback in. Yeah, and the last drive for the Bears too, the 3 fumbles The Giants were fortunate the Bears put the ball on the ground 3 times, and the Bears were fortunate they got all 3 back. I don't know. The rain really threw the Bears off, I think. I really think it did. Panthers and Bucks, another surprising outcome, 24-17. Bucks, some bad coaching in this one. And it's weird because you can compare the Panthers. Like I said with the Falcons, they have the talent and they're not executing. Same thing with the Panthers. And I can also compare the Panthers to a team we're going to talk about in a little bit, which is the Vikings, in terms of not using their running back enough when they should, or doing the opposite, kind of forcing the pass, getting their team down where everybody knows they're passing, puts their quarterback in a bad situation. Everything I just said applies to the Panthers and the Vikings. The funny thing is, Norv Turner was the Vikings offense coordinator in the past, and they had the same problems then. And now we're seeing Norv Turner do it, and it was good in the beginning of the season in terms of play calling and play decisions. And now we're seeing it here. Cam Newton can't throw 4 picks, 3 to the same guy actually. But you put him in a tough situation too. McCaffrey, 10 for 106. Maybe he should get the ball more. Just maybe. 9 receptions, 55 yards with a touchdown. Maybe he should get the ball more. I don't know. I'm not an offensive coordinator, but looks pretty obvious. But they do put themselves in the situation where maybe sometimes they do have to pass when you would like them to run, and that causes 4 interceptions. It causes him to get hit as he throws it because everybody knows they're passing here because you set him up to fail. Blame does go on Newton, some of those throws. Blame does go on maybe the O-line, letting him get hit. But unacceptable. I got to blame it on the coaching. I blame it on the play calling, but again, Newton can't throw those picks. Is he hurt too? He couldn't throw a ball like 30 yards at the end of the game. They got to put Heineke in to throw the ball much further. I don't know. It was a little strange there. Good game for the Buccaneers. I thought Winston was very good, actually, very solid. He did very well running the ball. It wasn't designed runs too. He's just escaping the pocket. Yeah, there was more than one, but there was one where the Panthers allowed him to get the first down. I don't know how he got out of the pocket, and I don't know how he got the first down. Kuechly, I think, had an easy tackle and stopped him short, but he's standing straight up trying to punch the ball out. I don't agree with that at all. Kuechly did not have a good game. I don't really think he's having a good year. More missed tackles I've seen from him than ever. I do not think he's having a good year. This is a bad game from him. Really, the only thing the Panthers got on defense is their linebacker unit, and they're really not playing at the level they should be playing at, but that's not going to be the difference. The offense has to score more points in this too. McCaffrey's got to get the ball more. Good game for the Buccaneers, though. Godwin was great too. They need to get a running back, I guess. I just can't believe Ronald Jones is just not the guy. It's surprising. I guess that's a draft miss. I didn't think he was a for sure first round or anything, but it's a little surprising. Maybe I would like to see him on a different team. Some of these young guys that really aren't taking off, maybe they just need new teams, but it's very early to say for Ronald Jones at this point. Penalty yards. Let's see. Oh yeah, there was one in this game. 104 yards for the Panthers. 104 off 7 penalties. 9 penalties for 69 yards for the Buccaneers. So the Buccaneers had 2 more penalties, but that much more less yards. And there were so many instances where penalties were terrible. Just the flags they were throwing were terrible. I can't even remember them all. And this is actually an example. It was some point at the end of the game, the refs were discussing. I was watching Red Zone channel, by the way. The refs were discussing something. I forget what I apologize. I forget what they were discussing. But you can see in the top left corner of my TV actually, where the ball is at, and there's a ref that's not involved in the discussion with the rest of the ref. The ball was already placed where it was spotted. He was picking it up and moving it in different spots. He ended up moving it a yard forward. It's just stuff like that sticks with me. I don't know why, but it sticks with me. It's not necessary. What are they doing? The ref by himself up there moving the ball. A lot of people probably didn't even notice this. I noticed this. People I was watching the game with noticed it. Strange stuff going on in the NFL with officiating. It's weird. It's weird. Moving on. Colts 0, Jags 6. Can't believe the Colts scored 0 points. Can't believe they didn't score any points. Andrew Luck. You start to get on the Colts train and the Andrew Luck train, and then they do something like this. It's just this year in the NFL. Last week, even Andrew Luck did not play a good game last week. He did not play a good game this week. I think he only threw 1 interception, but I thought he had more turnover-worthy throws than it even showed. They didn't play a good game. Credit to the Jaguars defense. They did get good pass rush. Luck was playing good because he had all kinds of time. No pass rush. He didn't even get hit in multiple games. The Jags were getting after him. They were getting after him, and that was kind of throwing him off. So, some of these quarterbacks really just need the time to be good. So many. And some of them act like they have no time, but they have time, and I don't know. I guess some of them are used to just having time, and they get hit, and they're scared for the rest of the game. I don't know if that applied here. I'm just talking about in general. But the Colts got to put up points here. I don't really know. They couldn't really run the ball too well. I mean, Ebron played his game. Hilton played his game before he got hurt. Hilton was really great in the beginning of this game. Not too many receivers know how to get the first down when they catch the ball a yard or two short of the first down line. Hilton's a great example of how to do it. Some guys try to dance around too much. Hilton was great in that before he got hurt. Hines did a good job catching the ball in the backfield. Inman stood out. I think it was 1/3 down. I want to say second quarter. Maybe it was the third quarter. There was a third down, I believe it was, and they lucked through a deep ball, which I think was actually a great ball to Inman. And Inman is turned around, backpedaling to the ball. You're an NFL receiver? Are you kidding me? You're an NFL wide receiver. You run to the ball. I guess this is when you play football for the first time you learn this stuff. So I don't know what that was. I've seen that a lot from receivers and tight ends this year, turning around too early to get the ball, and it's way over your head, and I got to backpedal this ball. I don't know. I don't know what to tell anybody on that, what he was doing there. Kessler managed the game well. They couldn't run the ball well with Fournette out. Just a terrible rushing game. It looks like Yeldon led the team in receiving yards. Just no offense in this game. No offense whatsoever. Good defense. Jaguars defense played very, very good. But the last drive is where it gets me. The Colts and the last drive. The Jags were giving them too much cushion. I don't know if it was like a prevent, a little bit too much cushion on the sidelines there. And the Colts are getting good gains. They're taking the free yards. And then I don't know what they did at the end there. Not spiking the ball. I don't know. I don't know. Some coaching. The coaching's been great for the Colts, but I don't know whose decision it was, really. Was it Andrew Luck's decision not to spike the ball? Was it the coaching staff's decision not to spike the ball? I think I seen the Luck kind of looking to the sideline too. It's hard to tell, but you think the quarterbacks should be able to take control. You shouldn't be able to hold their hands here. So that's kind of what I took away from that. You got to be more aware. You see the actual really good teams, the teams that win over the past years, the quarterbacks that win over the past years, they take control in these situations. Andrew Luck, he hasn't played in a while, but he knows the game. I expected to spike somewhere in there. And the very last play of the game, clearly out of bounds. Good tackle. I think it was Ramsey, but clearly out of bounds. His entire body. I don't know the call. I don't get the call there. I don't get why it's not reviewed. Can it be reviewed? I don't see why not. Everybody's on the field. The game's over. The refs are running the tunnel. Sums up. It sums it up. The officiating in the NFL. Terrible, terrible call there. The clock should have been stopped. I don't get that over the last few years, too. Like, so many times a player just gets out of bounds. They'll run out of bounds, and somebody will just touch the shoulder pad. Obviously, a little different in this instance, but and they'll just keep the clock rolling. Just always keep the clock rolling. Maybe 5 years more than that ago. Out of bounds is out of bounds. Player gets out of bounds, clock stops. I don't get whatever happened to that. I guess they want to move the game along a little faster. What were the penalty yards in this game? Check them out. Trying to pull them up here. Penalty yards, 65 and 74 for the Jags. Not too bad, but I thought it was pretty poorly officiated down at the end of the game there. Browns 13, Texans 29. Texans dominated this game. Baker was off this game, forcing stuff, throwing interceptions. Texans look real good. Lamar Miller is really coming back to life. The old Lamar Miller. Like to see that. The run blocking has been very good. Watson and Hopkins are obviously good. It's unfortunate that Will Fuller is not in this offense anymore. He got hurt. It sucks. You would like to see him with this group. Defense is outstanding. Turning the ball over, getting touchdown on defense. Good game for the Texans. They were winning some close games. You're not really sure if you're a believer. They're a winning team. But then they do a great job against Titans, win big on them. They do a good job against a hot Browns team, win big on them. The Texans are really, really looking good, really coming along. Are they a contender? They may be. I'm starting to believe even more on the Texans. They look legit on all phases of the game. And, I said it weeks ago, the winning attitude, it just stays there. It stays there in the momentum. They gain momentum, and they get that. All they know is winning, and that's what happens with teams So it makes them better and better. So good to see there. Really, they dominated this game. Even with the score, it looks like they won by a good amount, but it felt like even more than that. Penalties, 45 yards, 77 yards for the Texans, not too bad. The Jets and the Titans, terrible officiating in this one. A game I caught on red zone here and there. And the Jets actually had control in this game for a while. Mariota with a bad pick six. Other than that, I thought he played a pretty darn good game after that. That was just a great play. Using Derrick Henry in short yardage, what a concept. Good job to the Titans realizing that. They should do it. Doesn't take anybody smart to do it. Taywan Taylor had a good game. Corey Davis, the touchdown to win the game was great. Jonnu Smith back to being Jonnu Smith. He had a good game last week, dropping the ball again this week. The Jets had this game, kind of let it go. Crowell, 98 yards rushing. McCown kind of, he could have played better, I guess. 17 for 30, 128 yards, interception. But, this game pops up on red zone, and it's a replay, and you see, I believe it was Taylor Lewan. He was blocking somebody, and the defender's hands he was grabbing his face mask and pushing up on it. So I'm like, oh, okay, they're calling hands and face here. No, it was big gain for the Jets. They didn't call it. They go away from this game. They come back. There's crazy holding just on my screen on a replay when it comes back. I believe it was on Harold Landry. Big gain on the outside, so I assumed, okay, they called holding here. They're showing the replay for holding. No. And then a little after that, what drives me nuts this year, I mentioned before, is when the refs throw the flag and pick it up on things that should not be picked up. I've explained it in the past. It's now more than ever in today's NFL. You see the flag, you throw it, but then who makes you pick it up? I don't know what's discussed. But there was one here. Mariota was in the red zone looking for an open receiver, can't find one. I think he ends up trying to run. I don't know. I think he gains a yard or something, and there's a flag comes in the secondary. So flag comes in the secondary just then, and the ref instantly, no discussion, the ref instantly goes to the microphone. There's no foul for defensive pass interference or defensive holding on the play. What? What? I don't understand it. You just threw the flag, and instantly you're like, no, we're not calling it. I don't know why you throw the flag. I don't get why I don't even know. I don't even get why they have flags at this point. And we saw Taylor Lewan go up to the refs after the game and say, you tried to ruin it, start swearing them. Good for him. It's pretty obvious that it's another instance where a player was really, and they won the game too. They won the game, and he's frustrating with them. And it was pretty obvious how bad it was. There was some bad calls on both sides too, but good for Taylor Lewan. I like that he did that. He's probably going to get fined, but 96 yards and penalties for the Jets. Like I said, there was some bad calls going that way, but there was ones that really stood out to me for the Titans. 75 yards for the Titans. A lot of penalty yards in that game as well, and the players are very frustrated. Good comeback for the Titans. They looked pretty bad early. The Jets got to keep that lead, but I don't think Jets fans are too upset about it. They're going for the draft pick once again. Chiefs 40, Raiders 33. Chiefs controlled this game most of it, but they let the Raiders back in the game. And actually, for a second, look like the Raiders had a chance to come back in this game, but that's Chiefs. The Chiefs' strength isn't their defense. Really, what it is? They scored 40 points. That should be enough. They did win, but to be safe, but they don't have the defense. And you see teams that do have the defense do this stuff. So I guess they have an excuse, but you can't really let this happen. Spencer Ware, it seemed like he didn't have the bursts. I guess they could have ran the ball at him a little more. Well, they didn't need to. They scored 40 points. Another great game from Mahomes. Travis Kelce was everywhere once again. Tyreek Hill, 1 for 13. I don't know what happened there against the Raiders, but yeah, they're going to miss Kareem Hunt, but they still won the game. They still scored 40 points. That's the great thing about Mahomes and this Chiefs offense. Defense didn't play too well. Carr had a great game. Good job to him. Richard had a good game, 6 for 95. Jared Cook's been great this year. They finally got Jordy Nelson a little more involved than usual. I guess Chiefs got to hang on the lead a little better, but, they controlled most of this game. Their strength isn't defense. So, I don't want to say a good win. It's good to get a win every week in the NFL because we've seen all these crazy outcomes, the crazy upsets. So, I guess overall it's a good game for the Chiefs. Good job for the Raiders. Looks good for Derek Carr that he's able to do that again. 94 yards and penalties for the Chiefs, 74 for the Raiders. That's a lot, but we've seen more. Vikings 10, Patriots 24. The Vikings are pathetic. 10 points against the 22nd ranked defense. But the most pathetic part about it is you have, Kirk Cousins isn't playing the best football. He's got to play better, but he's maybe the better quarterback you had in a while. You have Kirk Cousins, Dalvin Cook. You got Thielen and Diggs, maybe the best receiver duo in football. You got Kyle Rudolph, who's been playing great this year. 10 points. Unacceptable. What was Dalvin Cook? 9 for 84 rushing. Go back to, he's just coming off his injury. They're playing the Bears. Every time they run the ball, the Vikings run the ball, he's getting -1, -2. There's nowhere to run. And you keep forcing the run. You're down in the game. You keep forcing the run. The pass was working early. You keep forcing it. You set up your quarterback to where they know you're passing because you got to come back. They're blitzing. They're pass rushing because they know you're passing. And in this game, when the run is working, you're 9 for 84 and you're not running the ball. And they were in this game. They were in this game up until late third quarter. DeFilippo needs to go. I'll say it once again. They have the talent. They're not executing. The difference between last year and this year is Shurmur to DeFilippo. That is the difference. If you don't see it, I don't know what you're looking at. There's people that still think DeFilippo's going to be a head coach. It's mind-blowing. I think Aikman said something like DeFilippo's going to be a head coach. He's what young quarterbacks need. He was comparing him to the Rams offense. The Vikings and the Rams offense are nowhere near the same thing. Nowhere near it. I don't know what the guy's talking about, but it's pathetic. They got the talent. I understand if you score 10 points against the Bears or the Ravens, kind of. I don't really understand that because you have the talent, but Patriots win on offense, not defense, but they won this game on defense because you couldn't score more than 10 points. Missed another field goal, too, and on the field goal, the holder didn't even know he was supposed to be out there. Some blame goes to him, but with good coaching, that doesn't happen. Surprised to see that from the Vikings coaching staff. I don't know what's going on there. It's not looking good. The better coaching staff won, made adjustments. It's pretty clear. The Vikings defense couldn't do much more there. They didn't play a great game. They didn't play a great game, but they played good. The blame's on the offense. Blame's on the offense for sure. Got to score more points. Brady got his 1,000-yard career rushing yards there. Takes a knee 1 yard forward. I thought that was it's classic Brady, pretty funny. Good to have Burkhead back for the Patriots there. He looked pretty solid on some slip screens. A lot of dump offs, a lot of slip screens for the Patriots, but it works. And the whole Thielen-Belichick exchange was pretty funny, I guess. But I think that was Thielen being frustrated. He was already frustrated with the refs, and they had a player go down just to stall some time so he can take his time, get the challenge flag out of his sock and challenge it. And I understand a player's frustration. That wouldn't change the game, I don't think, but I understand a player's frustration there. I didn't think Thielen had that good of a game. He had 2 drops, I believe. One was tough, but one he usually catches. The Vikings were in this game, and they really lost it. And I blame the coaching staff. I blame the play calling. I think DeFilippo needs to go. Another, what I say, was Cook 9 for 84, and they had 2 more runs he had that were actually really good runs get taken away for holding. There was obvious holdings on both sides and pass plays that they just were not calling on both sides, and they were making sure they were calling them on run plays. I think that's their way of trying to protect the quarterback. They missed some PIs in this game. I thought Aldrick Robinson, there should have been a PI on his, it was the right side of the field in the end zone. I don't think it would have changed the game, though. The Vikings got to score more than 10 points. That's really the bottom line. I think changes need to be made. I don't think they do it this year. They better do it in the offseason. Because they have the talent. You can't sit here and say they don't have the talent. Yeah, Kirk needs to play better, but just like the Cam Newton situation, I think he's put in the situation where it's made harder on the quarterback, but no excuses. Got to throw the ball to the right team. But then again, they're not running the ball, but when the running back's doing good, so instead they're going to run plays where every single receiver and tight end runs a 4-yard hitch, 3-yard, 5-yard, whatever it is. 4th down, Treadwell runs a slant. 4th and 11, he runs a slant. They throw it for 4 yards. It's pathetic. That's the best word to describe it. It's pathetic. Good game for the Patriots. Penalty yards, 55 for the Vikings, 60 for New England. Not many there. I thought there was missed calls on both sides here. Holdings on pass plays. There was guys getting mauled on both sides. Not calling those, but they were calling on the run plays. Pass interference missed on both sides. So I thought it was questionable in that game as well. Niners, Seahawks kind of went to to what we thought maybe the score would be, maybe a little more from the Seahawks than we expected. But they're the better team. The beat up Niners, they're the better team. Another one, they're just flag happy. Like the game was at the end of the game was over, and they're just making sure they're throwing it. They can't keep it in their pants. They can't keep it in their pants. That's what it is. They got to throw the flags. Yeah, there was an insane amount. There wasn't really anything too terrible, but I feel like there was an insane amount in this game. Yeah, 128 yards and penalties for the Niners. How are you supposed to win like that? 100 yards for the Seahawks. How do you score 43 points like that? It's because the other team got 128 yards and penalties. It's insane. I think Lockett's, I think it was the first touchdown. He was a complete push off. I've seen him push off multiple times this year. You know, he's quick and fast. He does it really quick and fast. It was just a blatant push off for a touchdown. Like, how do you not call that? But I mean, it wouldn't have changed the game. Seahawks are the better team. Russell Wilson looked very, very good in this one without throwing for a lot of yards. Just didn't need to do it. Didn't need to attempt that many passes, really. Carson did what he needed to do. Bobby Wagner was just magnificent once again. Easily the best middle linebacker in football, maybe the best linebacker in football. Pick six for however 90-something yards. Good game to him. A lot of penalties again. Chargers and Steelers 33-30, kind of surprising, even though we know the Chargers are good, but they were missing Melvin Gordon. The Steelers are seen to be good in prime time. The Steelers' defense was terrible. Tackling, missing assignments, Justin Jackson juking everybody out, slipping tackles, unacceptable, really. You know, he's good, but unacceptable. Steelers got to win this game at home. You know, they scored enough points to win. Unfortunate that James Conner goes down. Very unfortunate. Samuels, you know, on the touchdown he looked pretty solid. But other than that, you know, he could use a little more burst when he's getting the ball out of the backfield. So they're going to need somebody else there depending on the Conner injury. But really the defense blew it for the Steelers. They had the lead. They had a pretty good lead. Let them come back in. Again, Justin Jackson was great. Phillip Rivers was great. Keenan Allen was more than great. That receiver unit's looking pretty good. And, you know, Eckler's part of it too, even though he's a running back. But good comeback for the Chargers. That's a big-time win for them. But then towards the end of the game, you know, the Desmond King run back, two missed block in the backs, and before one of the block in the backs, I can't talk anymore. I've been talking too much. He was holding them. It's just very obvious. You can't tell me that you didn't see either one. You can't. They just pick and choose when to call. That's really how to sum up the officiating. They pick and choose for who, when, and where. Don't call it there. Juju Smith gets the ball spotting was terrible. It was terrible every game, all year. But Juju gets the first down, clearly gets it. They mark him a yard short. They review it, mark him a half yard short when he already got the first down. It's ridiculous. And then it ends the game with 3 offsides. You know, the first field goal was missed. They were offsides. Were they? You know, I'd like to see more of like a side view replay. Didn't get the chance to see that. But it looked like they were probably offsides. In the next play, blocked field goal, offsides, same thing, and then the made field goal, offsides. But then it goes back to looking at the replays of the center and people talking about it, or the snapper, I should say, moving the ball, bobbing like crazy, moving his head. You know, the guys on the edge, you can see their heads are turned looking at the ball. The league's a mess. It's like, call it or don't. They've called it sometimes this year in crucial moments, and sometimes we're going to let it go. We're going to let it go. We don't want this game to go overtime. So I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and complain that should be called. My complaint is be consistent, call or don't, stop picking and choosing. So, you know, good game for the Chargers. You know, not a defensive game. Steelers defense was pretty bad in terms of assignments missed and tackling. You know, the holes that were there for the Chargers, and it's kind of been there all year, but you expect the Steelers to step up better prime time at home. And then the Monday night game. I picked an upset here. Just a gut feeling, you know, probably wrong because that's how this season's going. But there's also a lot of upsets, so maybe I'll get one here. 24-21. The Eagles have not looked good. I think Colt McCoy can do it. You know, he's nothing special. You know, he's a guy that can win him a game. He can also take him out of the game. You know, I think between Peterson and if Thompson plays, could do some damage there. I still like their defense. Their defensive backs need to play. This is a game where two of the same defenses really play different defenses, but defenses are pretty good, but the secondaries are where they're weak. You know, angles and tackling, pretty bad on both sides there. So we'll see. I think the Redskins secondary has a better chance of taking turnovers away. So that's the difference. I'm picking the upset here, even though the Eagles were home. I'd feel a little more confident. The Redskins were home, but a lot of away teams won, an upset team. So we'll see. That was my recap, my ranting recap there. We'll have our straight up picks tomorrow on Tuesday, Power Rankings too. Follow our Twitter. We got predictions on there every week. Live streams on Friday. A lot of changes. Check out our Twitter. I tweeted out a bunch of stuff about changes coming to that. To the live streams, we're making them better. We're improving them. We're trying to get every team involved. You know, people are a little upset that we're talking about specific teams or the very little teams. I understand, and I apologize for that. We're fixing that. So, yeah. I'm going to do I want to do the bowl game predictions too. All the bowl games and score predictions for the top bowl games in the playoffs. Kind of waiting to see who's sitting out for the draft-eligible guys. Kind of waiting to see for that. So we'll get to that. Want to do an updated mock draft soon too, so we'll get to that. That should be fun. I'm ready for draft season already. I'm already ready. But a little more NFL to be played here. Playoffs should be fun. I think the playoffs should be back to it should be normal playoffs. I think get the best officiating crews out there, the best teams out there. Should be fun, so can't wait for that too. Subscriber goals 10K. Please help us get there. Big things happening at 10K. Please click that like button too. That'd be much appreciated. That's going to do it for this one. I feel like this was a very, very long video, so let's end it. That'll do it. Goodbye.